because you're such a talented photographer and most of both of our audiences, we have got a lot of photographers listening in.
Yeah.
I want to get like a little nitty gritty and like kind of take this conversation and focus it really tighter on photography. I would love to hear your thoughts on how you think Lightroom presets play a role in inequality towards Black couples.
Yeah. So I remember when I first started, this was a huge issue. I feel like it's gotten better since then. So I started in like 2017, 16, buying presets. And oh man, it used to be rough. Like none of the sample photos would be of Black clients or like BIPOC period. Like it was just bad. And like you would buy them because you're like, well, why would somebody make a product that doesn't work on this skin tone? And it's like, no, it was bad. And I think people are still can get it wrong. Like a lot of people, and I know we're going to look at some edits here in a little bit, but there can be like a coolness, like an ashiness to the skin tone. It can be like completely underexposed. Like, I don't think that people understand. First of all, it definitely starts in camera, like the settings, and I'll talk through kind of how I approach that. And lighting diverse couples is different than maybe just, a white couple or something like that. But the preset thing is challenging. I really had to change how I shot in order to make it work, which is fine. Like no preset is perfect. I don't think you can necessarily just pop one on and that's it. But man, the tweaks that I was having to make in order to just make the photo look somewhat decent was just so bad. It was like the presets were not designed for darker skin tones at all.
Absolutely. It's even interesting too to talk about, I think, the way that even certain Lightroom presets are affecting white skin in like ways that are definitely not okay.
Not good.
And making them essentially look not white.
Yeah. I've seen some great looking white bodies before. I always call it the corpse filter because I'm like, why do they look like that?
Yeah, or like the other direction too of like looking like so tan. Yeah. Or like you're like, absolutely, that girl does not have that much melanin. There's no way.
They look like different people.
Yes.
And I think that photography should like enhance those things. Not to say that you can't put your own artistic spin. Like that's the cool part about being an artist, but you still have to have proper skin tones. Like clients still want that. They don't know the terminology and they don't know what to look for, but they know that they want to still look like themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, cool. So what are some ways that photographers can learn to better edit and, like you're saying, in camera shoot for darker melanated skin tone?
Yeah. So like, obviously I could talk about this all day. So I'm just going to share a couple of things that is like quick tips. And I'm thinking about like, if there's some attraction to that here, like maybe I'll share more of that later, but
yes, so of course.
I know, oh my God, add it to my never ending to-do list, but that is a goal. That's a 2020 goal I will achieve.
Amazing.
But yeah, it starts in camera for sure. But even before that, understanding light and how it reflects off of skin is so important, especially when dealing with melanated skin of any kind. Like making sure that, whoever is darkest is closer to the light source so that they get a little bit more light. Making sure I shoot with Kelvin. I found that shooting any type of melanated skin on auto white balance does not do well for me. And I don't know if that's just because of my shooting style, but I feel like it doesn't do that great of a job for melanated skin tones. It always feels really cool to me. And I'm always having to go in and kind of warm it up to kind of give it that glowy popping. Like my thing is like melanated skin is so pretty. It's so rich. There's so many like cool highlights and undertones to it that you can play with. So I always want to accent that. So I'm always looking at like the light source. How's it hitting? I'm making sure that, especially for melanated skin colors, that they are on reflective surfaces, that like their clothing, everything is reflecting perfectly. And again, these are probably general things, but I pay attention to them even more for the melanated clients, because the worst thing is when the skin tone is just off. Either it's too orange, it's too cool, and it loses that just glowy texture richness to it. That's what I don't like. So definitely paying attention to light sources, paying attention to what is reflecting off of the skin. And as far as shooting wise, I always try to nail exposure for melanated clients. I have found, or maybe a little slightly under if I'm trying to like retain a highlight, or depending on time of day. And I've pulled pictures from like all times of day, so we can kind of talk about that briefly. But kind of making sure that you have all those things going on will make for such a better image, no matter how you edit.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think it's so important to hear you say that, because I think people might look at your final images and be like, oh, it's so airy and soft and beautiful and creamy and all of these things, that they might assume that you shoot overexposed.
Yeah. No.
But that doesn't happen, because you have to take this into this editing software. There's so many things that are going to affect it. So I love that you brought that out and said that you may sometimes shoot underexposed.
Yeah.
Because that's a huge tool to retain the richness of a skin tone.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever, unless it was just super dark out. I don't think, and I actually do have one image here, but you'll see her complexion is very light, so it is overexposed. But for darker, like my shade and darker, I don't ever overexpose, because I want to retain the richness and I want to be able to bring that out like the way that I best see fit.
Absolutely. Do you want to walk us through your Lightroom? Through a few edits?
I'm like really excited. I've never done this before, so just bear with me.
We are so honored that you're taking us, like letting us peek over your shoulder.
I'll start here. And so I just pulled a few different lighting, like this is at night. I'll kind of talk to you what was going on with the lighting in these, and we don't have to go through all of them. You can tell me, like, wrap it up.
Great. I'm so excited.
Okay. So I wanted to pull these two images because you can see like it's like this weird, like it's overcast, but then there's still like this weird sun kind of peeking through. And we get this a lot in the Carolinas. And it's always interesting to be like dealing with Kelvin on days like this, because like 1 minute the sun is peeking through, you could kind of see that it's kind of hitting her right here, which I love. It kind of brings out those natural hair highlights, which you want to pay attention to. Like, so her hair is natural. I want to always make sure that I can see her natural curls and I can get the glow of her hair. Like all those things kind of matter and are playing in my head as I edit. So for me, I use good light presets. I've been using them now for almost a year, if not a little more. And you'll see in just a second when I lay them on top of this picture, it is so good for skin tones. Like, even if you are a moodier edit or a lighter edit than I am, like, it is insanely good. So I'm just going to do what I would do. So I would pull this image in and I always use their F1 and like, look at that.
Yeah.
Like, even if I didn't want to do anything else to this image, I would be okay with sending this to a client. I do a little contrast bump because again, I'm paying attention like here and here. Like I want her skin to like pop. Like I want her to be like, dang, my skin looks good. So I'll even pull the shadows down and the blacks down a little bit just to give it a pop. And you can see like, it's just so pretty. Like It's got this little magenta highlight to it. And even if you didn't like that as much, you wanted to bring it down. Like, so pretty.
Gorgeous.
Right? So, like, to me, I would be pretty much done with this image at this point. But the reason that I put her on this side is because you see the sun, you can tell like the light that is there, the direct light is hitting her here. Mm-hmm. She's darker than he is. He has a little bit more yellow undertone to her. She's got a little bit more pink because she's this rich brown color. And so I knew that if I put her on this side, not only can I see her ring, which is just a good little tip, but I can also give her the glowiness so that her skin really pops, because I already know that him being a little bit lighter complexion, his skin is going to likely be okay. It's her skin that I never want to be cooler or quote unquote ashy looking. Also, I always pay attention to the highlights on Black skin, especially. I typically don't like to pull the highlights all the way down on them. That can contribute to like a little bit of an ashy feeling, versus if you kind of give it a little bump here and like even right here, like I'm looking, I would take like a wand and just like real lightly, like kind of just take that off. But that's something you want to look for. Like you don't want to, a little bit. Yeah. You don't want to miss stuff like that. And that happens a lot of times with white photographers. They'll miss these little tweaks that you can make that will take that bluish hue off or take that ashiness out. Mostly the tint and the tint will take care of that. So those are just kind of some quick little tidbits.
Yeah, I love that. I think, sorry,
No, you're fine.
I love that you take the time to hit the brush tool, because sometimes that's what it takes. Like, especially when we have like two different skin tones, like you're just going to have to take a little extra time, and photographers are just going to have to suck it up and say like, the images are just going to take longer to edit, and it's going to be worthwhile because your clients will look accurate.
Yeah. And you know what's even funny about that is like people are like, oh my God, it takes so long. I mean, I feel like if I wasn't talking through all of that, I would have been done with that picture in like 30 seconds. Like, you know what I mean? Like it really doesn't take that much longer when you have thought ahead and get it right in camera, and then you can pull it in and hit these skin tones. So I'll show you this one. So now you can see the light has shifted. It's obviously crooked. I didn't correct these at all before. But the light has shifted. It's pretty much completely overcast. Now, this one will not be as easy to fix. And honestly, on me, I probably should have warmed them just a little bit. This is the hardest light to get right for melanated clients. I probably, in hindsight, would have warmed them just a little bit more using Kelvin. Like auto white balance on this picture would be like a trash picture for me. Like I probably wouldn't even attempt it because it just would have been so blue and so ugly. Not that they're ugly, but you see, I'd throw that on. I'm going to do a lens correction, add a little sharpness, and you see their skin looks muddy now. It's a little bluish. They look a little ashy. And I know that they definitely don't look like that. So I'm going to pay attention to this and kind of see. It's a fine line. You don't want them to look orange. Here, I might drop that just a little bit just because of the sky and because I'm going to play with their skin tones anyways. I'm going to bump this exposure. Probably drop the contrast a little just because that light is so weird. And probably bring that up a little bit. And now I'm happy with the overall image, but probably going to go, this is so funny to me. I don't know why it's like that. This looks so funny to me. She was having the time of her life, though. This is like one of my favorite clients ever.
That's a cute picture.
There you go. She's like so happy. I play with this a lot. These HSL sliders are like my saving grace.
Yes.
And so again, I'm just kind of playing with it, seeing where I like their skin tone, like that would probably be okay to me. I might add a little luminance because this will help add a little glow. So these two for sure. I really rarely will move an orange hue, but the saturation and luminance will save your skin tones every single time. And that's just no matter who, but.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll bump this a little bit just to give it a little pop. And I might hit it one more time. One more time. And yeah, I feel good about that. I feel pretty solid about that. So, but like,
yeah. Will you show us like before and after?
Yep. Like, look at that. It's like night and day.
Mm-hmm.
If you took this picture any cooler, their skin tones would be way too muddy. And you'd have, like even, I might even go up to, like, I'll make this big again just to make sure like that's a little too magenta. So melanated skin tones get magenta very quickly. So like I see a lot of times when I'm taking like I can usually play with my tint a lot more with white clients than with black clients, just because we already have this like rosy undertone to our skin. So you don't want to play with that too much. Yeah, I'd be happy with that. And so there's a nice little before and after, but you'll see this picture is not perfectly shot like exposure wise. It's a little under, and this is what I meant. I obviously did that because I wanted to retain a little bit of sky and a little bit of this detail on the back. And yeah, but overall, I know that in this session, I took some photos of them from this angle so that they could get a little bit more light, but this was just such a pretty backdrop with that. And they were so like joking at this point and being happy. I was like, we're just going to catch it. But yeah, there's that one. Okay. This is a picture that I would take like often, which is why I pulled this one. Mm-hmm. Charleston. This is as Charleston as it gets. The horse, the pink building. It's just a lot.
So good.
Okay. So I crop that there. All right. So again, this one is probably about proper exposure. It may be like a stop under. I put them against this black wall versus this pink part here. A lot of my white clients, I would have usually put them on the pink. I put them on the black so that they would have a really easy, nice surface to pop off of, and the light wouldn't be competing against the pink and this reflective surface here. So the good thing about concrete, gravel, anything, sand, it all does really well with black skin because it makes it like a nice natural reflector. Mm-hmm. But if I put it on the pink with the sun coming in from this angle as well, their skin would have rendered out super pink and it would have just been a nightmare to try to edit. So against the black, it kind of gives them a nice little pop of contrast. And you'll even see when I put this on, like, so I see a lot of images that basically look like this. Their skin tones are way too orange. Mm-hmm. And the contrast has made their skin lose the glow and it's more harsh now. Mm-hmm. So I would take this down immediately. I would probably just take a little bit off the top here. And then I'm right back down to my color bars here. I'm going to drop the orange a little. I'm going to raise the luminance to get a little bit. And I'll adjust these until I kind of get it where I want it. I'm going to take a little bit that contrast out. Black skin tones have a tendency to be more contrasty, especially because she's in white, which is such a strong contrast against brown skin. So those are all things you have to consider when you're photographing these clients, is like making sure everything works together for the benefit of the skin tone. Yeah. And then I'm just going to drop that a little more. And then, yeah, this would be about spot on for me. Their skin looks good. Let me drop that a little bit. She's glowing, like you can see the glow like right here on her shoulder. That's going to print really nicely for them. And then everything else still retains the same look. He looks good. This blue is not reflecting on his skin because he's against this black door. Like it all just works together.
Amazing. Yeah, you
I'll show you the before
essentially
and after.
like the door like as a flag almost.
Exactly.
Like you would in a studio environment.
Exactly. You got it. I'll share a couple more. This is like one of my most popular images. It's so cute.
Yes.
Yeah, I adore this picture. Here's where I messed up here is the only thing different that I would probably do is I would put her here so she gets a little bit more light. So I talked earlier about putting your darker subject closer to the light to help kind of balance it out. But again, this was like a little candid moment that she just kind of jumped in there. And so, it is what it is. I wasn't going to interrupt the flow there.
Absolutely.
But we can make this work because there's a little bit of light coming from this other room. So I do my presets. I drop that, and you can see, honestly, her skin tone looks pretty good for her not to be in the best of light. This is just a little orange for me. And I would probably raise that a little bit just to give it a little bit more flow. And lift that there. And I would drop shadow a little bit, get a little closer crop. I'm not going to do everything else I do, but you see again, like that light hitting her in those areas. Her collarbone looks good. I'm looking at all of this at that point. I'm making sure though that this curve right here is never like too blue because it'll come across as ashy. So like if I even needed, again, the wand, I'd go in and I'd correct that. This little one, her name is Riley. She looks good. I may even just warm it back just a little bit. Yep. And like something along these lines would be perfect. Oh, let me show you before and after.
Oh, yeah.
And there's that. And you can see her jacket's a little blue, and I would fix that with a longer time. But yeah, other than but her skin tone wise, they look awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love seeing like an indoor environment, and because there's so much happening there. I mean, there's natural light, but then there's kind of like cool gray white walls happening, so
which can reflect, and they'll reflect onto the skin and make it super blue if you're not careful with how you're shooting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Indoors for sure. I'm almost always going a little under. It gives me a little bit more flexibility. This one I thought was good because the light's kind of weird here too. You can tell it's like real harsh back here, and then they're in this weird space where, I mean, this is not like super great light.
Honestly, thank you for showing us like challenging images. That's super helpful.
That's what I wanted to, because I'm like, I have some near here. You'll see like all of these are like a dream to edit, but like these were challenging, so they will test your test your skills. But even this is not too bad. But this is like the credit to the presets. I really love good light a lot. I would drop the contrast. I would probably raise the tint a little more. And like now I'm starting to notice like this feels a little pink to me. So I would drop that back. I'd raise the shadows. I see a lot of people doing like this, and that looks ashy. Like their skin looks ashy to me, especially like you can tell down here at his hands. That just doesn't look good. Her chest right here is starting to get, I call it the morgue look. We don't want that.
All the detail in her hair like disappeared.
Exactly. And a lot of people do that. They think like, oh, I'll raise the shadow. It'll make them look like super light and airy. And that's just not always best for Black clients. Like, so you may have to temper your expectations with your editing during those moments. I won't get too technical on this one, but I would add, I'm going to take that up a little bit and then just add a little pop here and add a little pop there. And then, yeah, that would pretty much be it for me. I would probably take a wand here and work on his hands. Just warm those up a little bit, add a little tint so they match his skin tone here. And then I'd probably take a brush of her dress or either come down here and see what it looks like. I don't want to disrupt his jacket too much, but I would drop that there just and then go in and add a brush on her just to make sure. And again, I would be more technical on a real picture, but
no, it's great to get this overview.
Probably something along those lines.
Yeah, I think people often forget, I think they think as long as they get the skin tones right on the face,
yep,
they just like the rest of the body doesn't matter.
Yeah, like you have got to. Where did there it goes. Okay, so now you can kind of see like a little bit more there. Pop. Yeah, you're right. Like people don't check shoulders, they don't check hands, they don't check elbows, like all these places where the light's not hitting well, can make sure, like can throw off the skin tone completely. It is definitely not just the face. I'm going to skip around a little bit. I'm going to go here. This will be an example of what I mean by putting your darker subject in more light. On this side of the image, I know you can't tell, but to the back side of this, there was just basically a wall. There was a porch swing and it was a wall. So she was kind of blocked off to light, which you can kind of tell. Obviously, it's darker right in here. But on this side, she had all the light pouring in from her direction. So I knew that I needed to put her on this side. She had shoulder pads on both sides. So she would have been fine on either one because this white would have reflected really well onto her skin. But the main thing I'm thinking is like, I want her to have as much light as possible so that her skin will render the best to me. And so that's obviously super orange. I shot these a little orange, but easy fix because I can drop it there. I can go here. I will go down a little bit just because you can tell that it's real bright. So I'll drop that down, just get a little highlight back. I'll raise this. And another thing that I see a lot is people wanting to make people lighter than they are. Like it's prettier to be a lighter skin tone. And I try to like make sure that I don't ever do that. I want your skin tone to glow, but I want it to be accurate to you. Like I've had pictures done before, my husband and I. My husband's lighter than me, and photographers will have tried to match our skin tones, and I'm like brown skin and he is like a more kind of like this color skin tone. And I hate that. Those pictures I don't like. And I'm pretty sure if you've ever done that to a Black client, not you particularly, Jess, but if anybody has ever done that to a client, it's not like quite offensive, but it is kind of like, well, what's wrong with my skin tone the way that it is, you know?
Right. Well, yeah, because just because two people are Black does not equalize their skin tone
exactly
to be the same. So you shouldn't edit them the same, just the way like two white clients, like it's not going to look like the exact same skin tone because they're two different people.
Exactly. Yep, you hit the nail on the head. So this would be about all I would do on this one. Again, you want to enhance their skin, not make it worse. And then I'll do this one. This is an interesting photo. They're both fairly light skinned, but she is still like this very gorgeous, like caramelly skin tone, which are like so good. This one a little cooler, but I can tell that because their skin pulls yellow in camera, I didn't want it to come out too orange when I edited it to where I had to just mess with it too much. So I would throw that on. I'm going to make this bigger. It's a little blue, but it's so much easier for me to kind of manipulate. I'm going to drop that. So when you have a lighter complexion client, you can play with your highlights a little bit more because their surfaces will reflect a little better on their skin tone. So you don't have to watch that as much. That's a little, and you see the warmer that I go, the more yellow, orangish their skin starts looking, and it's not real accurate for their real life. It's a little blue, and I'm just going to drop that, take that blue out of her veil.
Do you feel like shooting on grass, like the reflection from the green, can really make a huge effect on skin too?
Oh, for sure. I'm actually really particular. I should have pulled one of their pictures in from their first look. I typically won't shoot them on grass in like the middle of the day, like for the first look or whatever. Mostly because that skin cast can look real icky on them, and it's just really hard. It's harder to fix on Black clients than white clients. So what I'll usually do, like they actually did their first look on this grassy part here, but what I did was, and the only reason I did that was because it was open fields. They weren't surrounded necessarily by trees. But what I would typically have done, and also it wasn't super, super bright when they did it, but what I would also do is I would put them on this reflective path right here. Yeah. Like that gravel will cut the contrast out that she's going to get with her skin tone in the dress. That's the biggest thing. I just don't want them to be too contrasty and competing with the green kind of rendering as yellow on their skin tone. It just looks bad, and it's hard to get the skin tone right past that. So I would have put them on this path and let them kind of have their moment there. So you always just want to look for surfaces, like clean surfaces that are gray, off-white, even sometimes like pavement color. I don't know, is that gray? Dark gray. Anything like that that's not going to necessarily pour light back onto them in a negative way, you want to watch out for.
Yeah, such a good tip.
So yeah, that would be about right to me. And you see that I've enhanced her caramel color. Like that is literally exactly what she looks like in real life. His skin looks clean. There's not really a lot of yellow. There might be a tinge of yellow. I might just drop, and you can see like in their foreheads, that kind of drop right there. And we took care of the blue. Her arms look good. Nothing blue here. She's a little on that collarbone, just needs to be warmed just a little bit. And you see just that little subtle pop just made such a difference. Mm-hmm. So it's little tweaks. You just have to kind of train your eye to look for the little tweaks.
Yeah, it's funny because I think we overcomplicate it sometimes, and really it's that attentiveness, attention to detail, and you've really showed us how simple it is and how easy it is to get it right, as long as you're thinking about this, not just in your editing. It's not just like a fancy preset that's going to make it happen, but you're thinking about it in camera and taking the same kind of level of service that you would to anything else in your client experience to how you care for your couple's skin tones.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's why sometimes BIPOC clients will hire people that look like them, because they can trust that they won't have that experience. I can tell you, I've had 3 photography experiences that left much to be desired. And it was all because of not the posing, not the client experience. It was all skin tone related. And once that happens, it's just kind of hard to go back to that same person. I mean, yeah, sure, I could have a conversation about it, but then it's awkward on me. Like, I don't know. I feel like you as the professional should know how to do that. And it's crazy that now I'm finding out that people really don't know. Like, these classes aren't being taught about skin tones. And so maybe the conversation can change, but like now I go through the portfolios with I'm like, I don't care who you are. You could be the very all-time great, but like if your skin tones are off, like we can't, like it's just not going to be a fit.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to bring your face back up on here.
Perfect. I will stop. Okay,
perfect.
Here we go.
There we go. Now I can see you again. Yeah. So I this was so valuable, and I hope you really do start just creating something that we can invest in you, because that was just a peek into what I'm sure is just an even more vast knowledge of how to do this work. Yeah. So thank you for giving us a taste of it. It was super valuable. Sure. where can everybody connect with you on the internet?
Yes, you can follow me at Sacia Matthews. I'm sure Jess will have something to spell my first name, but at Sacia Matthews on everything, Facebook, Instagram. But oh my God, my dog is so weird.
So cute.
But yeah, Instagram is definitely the best place to catch me.
Amazing.
And then my website is saciamatthews.com. I do quick splash consultation calls for other creatives. If you ever want to talk about it, you ever want to send an image over, I can walk it through with you. We can play with it in Lightroom, like whatever. I'm all about helping everybody move forward.
Amazing. Thank you so much for all this knowledge and such an amazing conversation. We're so grateful that you gave us your time and all of your expertise.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. It's seriously so fun, so needed. I'm so thankful you're doing this.
Yay! Awesome. See you later.
Bye.